We have Gerald and Wendy Wood. Thank you guys so much for being here today.
Thank you.
And interviewing with me a little bit just about your whole story, which is crazy.
Yeah, well, thank you for having us here.
Yeah, of course. So would you like to tell me kind of a little bit about your interaction with any of the Dominion equipment or anything like that?
Well, that's pretty short. I haven't had no interaction with the Dominion equipment.
Yeah.
I have always filled out my ballot at home and brought it in, so I've never even used their equipment. So I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so when this all happened, you were just hired for a routine IT job. You know, something that you've probably done 100 times.
Right. And I would say I was never hired. I was vetted to be used as a consultant when needed.
Okay. And so you got a badge that gave you clearance to perform your duties as information technology.
When and if a situation occurred where I'd be needed, yeah.
And somebody kept that badge.
Yes.
Who was that? Do you know?
Well, at Tina's office, technically I handed it in to her deputy clerk, Belinda, but I assume Belinda was doing that by Tina's direction. And so after I had spoken to them for a little bit, after going into the office, meeting with them and having been issued the badge, Tina said she had some other things to deal with, left the room, and that's when our discussion was essentially over, but Belinda asked for the badge back to hold for me until I would need it.
Interesting. Yeah, that's definitely kind of a strange situation to have happen. I've never had anybody take any badges of mine, so I can, I don't know what was going through your mind at that point.
Well, as someone they've talked about bringing in occasionally for IT work, and if they ever asked about security measures and things, because that's kind of my background, not it's software security, but I know a lot of different things in network security and things, and if they ever asked about that, I would certainly mention that sort of flaw in their policy. A badge can be deactivated and made useless. It still is a badge if someone tried to scam their way in a door or something to pose as something they were not, but generally you do try to keep a badge.
And so it's because of this badge that you're now at the center of this whole controversy.
Apparently, yeah. That's what it seems like.
How has this affected your guys' personal life?
Well, I'll let Wendy talk to that more, because when this whole started, I was out of state, so I wasn't even in the town when our house was first raided. So you have more experience with that.
Well, we had, from the time that he first met with Tina, that was in May of last year, and 3 months went by without a word from her until we had a knock at the door, 9 p.m. on a Wednesday night, August 11th, and the DA's office and the sheriff's department was there. And the kids and I were on the couch, jammies on, hanging out, and there were about a dozen officers that were swarming our house. And immediately came in, took our phones, had us sit on the couch, detained us for a couple of hours while they searched and seized our electronics. So it was pretty harrowing for a while. It was stressful. And then they came back in November. The FBI came. And they still, they took whatever electronics we had left. Jerry was home at that point and took his stuff. And we still don't have any of those things back, other than, we don't have those back.
Yeah. Wendy and the kids got their phones back from the sheriff's department the next day.
Right.
I assume they downloaded whatever they needed. And we were told later they weren't supposed to take anything from the kids, but they still have some things.
Nevertheless.
Yeah, they still have things. So we're still waiting to have that all resolved. We're told maybe in 3 to 5 years. We'll see.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, we've been involved in election integrity efforts here for a while, since right after the 2020 election, really. That you're probably aware that raised some eyebrows as to various things that just didn't seem right. And so there was a small group forming here in the area where we were just concerned and wanted to figure out what we could do and how we could get to the truth. And we had started initially organizing just to confirm the voter rolls. Knock on doors, validate that where it says a name and address match where someone actually lives. And through that, as we were organizing, Tina had come and spoken to the group, and we had met just informally in different ways, and I don't know if she would even remember who I was, but you know, we just in passing, meeting people. And then I had been asking, since my computer background as a software engineer, I had been asking around as we started doing that, and different people were involved in collecting the data and compiling it. I said, I can help with that kind of thing, and I can probably streamline it. And wasn't getting anywhere with finding a way to really get my foot in the door and help with that effort. And so I've been asking around. And then in April of 2021, Dr. Frank came to town. It was an event that we understand Sharona organized and invited him to come. If you've seen the Tina Peters ads, it says Sharona Bishop, registered agent. She worked in political campaigns. I think was at one time attached to the Lauren Boebert campaign, the original Lauren Boebert campaign. Dr. Frank, if you're not familiar with him, is kind of a nationally known new celebrity, I guess. He's a renowned physicist, well known, who doesn't really work in physics anymore. He has several patents on bowling equipment, bowling things in pro bowl shops, and that's where he makes his money now. But he initially started crunching data, trying to investigate the 2020 election, and has been traveling around the country presenting what he finds and just things that don't look quite right. Tina had said was she needs help from time to time that either goes beyond the abilities or she said her local IT either can't or won't do. And she had mentioned that she would like to back up the Dominion machines, and that she was legally required to preserve the data, that Secretary of State had told the clerks that they need to back it up, but had provided no instructions on how to do so. And at that time I told her I don't know much about the machines other than they are voting machines. So I said if I could spend some time learning about them, give me some notice, I can figure out what sort of backup could be done. But I found out later that they were just Windows computers, which have a number of options for backing up. But yeah.
It came to our attention 2 weeks ago, about a week and a half ago, that Tina was on air on Jimmy Singenberger's radio show saying that Jerry had perjured himself to the grand jury. That really was probably the final catalyst to us speaking out, just for the truth to get out there. His name was blasted out there on the Daily Sentinel, and the article had picked it up, and so that was part of the reason we wanted to speak the truth and get it out there, was that that's a blatant lie. He's been cleared locally. It's apparently his alibi was sufficient.
Significant
And sufficient.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine going through what you guys have gone through, and it seemed like you guys kind of wanted to just keep quiet for the longest time, and it wasn't, until that.
Yeah, a lot of that was under the advice of our attorney. When this all started and our house was raided, I had to quickly figure out how to find a good attorney. I had no idea, and I started asking around, and luckily we landed with a really good one. But he has told us to stay quiet, and he's still not happy that we've come out to talk about this, but we're just talking on a very limited basis about these slander charges, and that I did not perjure myself. But her actual statement was just, Gerald Wood perjured himself, we know that. And well, the questions I was asked when I was called in front of the grand jury, I was still a target of investigation. So we were around lots of people all day long, and it was very easy to show that. People in our community came together and started pitching in photographs and emailed them in to the district attorney so that they could see dates and times attached to those photos that we call metadata, location, geolocation information and days and times, and they all matched up. And the grand jury accepted that as proof that I really wasn't there, that I wasn't the guy using that badge on that day.
Do you have any idea who it was that did use your badge?
I have read articles. I have read the names that are thrown around. Apart from that, I don't know.
Well, I would reference the New York Times article.
The New York Times article, right when we started coming out to answer these slander charges, The New York Times published an article naming the guy, that he's running around bragging about it. And the name that they're claiming, that they say they interviewed him and he said, I'm the guy, was Conan Hayes. Former professional surfer.
Owned a surf clothing company, multimillionaire.
Right, and then sold that company and made a bunch of money, and now he's turned into I don't know, some cyber investigator of some sort.
So do you feel your identity was stolen? I mean, if they made a badge for you, somebody used it and it wasn't you.
Well, that's what is being said. I haven't seen the evidence of it, but I have to believe that the district attorney has ample evidence of that. So I have to take that at face value. I think we've been pretty heavily impacted by the fallout from it. But I have maintained Tina can argue her case in court, and she can present whatever evidence, and whatever charges are valid will stick, and whatever charges are not valid will be thrown out. But something happened. I know that happened, and we've been living with the fallout from it.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you got used?
It feels that way. Yeah. It feels like this was set up from the beginning. They never intended to really use me as an IT consultant. I don't really know the truth. I don't know what the intention really was. Right. And so I can only speculate. She seems like she's being pushed over the edge a little bit. The New York Times article also says she tried to throw Lauren Boebert under the bus and connect her with encouraging her to take the action she took. It's hard to say. I mean, Tina's doing public appearances and giving at least 3 different stories that don't quite line up. So I am not really sure what to believe at this point. Up to the grand jury, I was keeping an open mind. I really wanted to believe the best. And when all this broke out, crazy things were being said about me. I mean, everything from I was a leader in QAnon to a Dominion employee to various things. It was all over the nation's news, and it was pretty incredible. And so for all the wild things that were being made up and printed about me, I had to think how much, if it's so many lies about me, and really all they ever got right initially was the spelling of my name, and eventually the spelling of Wendy's name, and the city we live in, and everything else seemed like it was complete fabrication of what was being printed. So I kept asking myself, if they've got that much wrong about me, what's accurate about what's being said about Tina? And so I to this day, I've never accused her of anything. She'll have her chance to defend whatever accusations are the litany of accusations that have been laid against her. But in the meantime, we've seen some very strange behavior, and including ready to blame people or drag people down with her. And that's really what we're speaking out against.
Do you think that she was kind of the one that was behind all this? Or do you think that there's something bigger going on?
We've heard a lot of speculation, and we've done a lot of speculating ourselves. It's hard to know. It's hard to know if someone really put her up to it, or whether she concocted it on her own. I have to think it was probably more than one person involved, but
reading the indictment papers, it seemed it's hard to explain how else this happened. She planned, back in April, she was communicating with the Secretary of State's office, making sure that they could bring in someone who was not an employee and asking about a background check. And so it appears that way to us, but yes, like Jerry said, we don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, and having a muzzle on us too all this time has been extremely difficult, because we've watched Tina stand up and have a platform and speak so many mistruths that it's been really hard to swallow. It's been extremely difficult on our kids to see that. They're so justice oriented, and kids are. They want to see the truth in things, and it's hard for them to see her up there slandering her stepdad, their stepdad, or me or whatever. And
you said in the article that there were people attacking you. Obviously, Tina Peters is attacking you. Is there anybody else that is,
Well-
like any other groups in town that are attacking you?
We've, within some of our social circles that they're very loyal to Tina. People that we've known for some time and considered friends or friendships that once we started speaking out a little bit here and there, some of them have been extremely supportive and said, I'm sorry I ever supported her. Others have just backed away, like physically taken a step back and just said, you're gossiping, we don't want to hear it. And I think people have a hard time disconnecting her hero status from the election integrity effort, because we're very much concerned about having integrity within our elections. But Tina does not own the corner on that either. We, in fact, if anything, I feel like she has sullied those efforts within Mesa County, as well as Sharona, frankly.
When you talk,
I
That's
think
slander.
I think the weakest part of any system, elections or not, any company's security, the election security is people. That's always the weakest thread, because people make mistakes, and also people can be targeted, they can be influenced, they can have their own agendas, and so that's always the weakest link. I'll tell you, I spent some time talking to the Montrose County clerk. Tressa, she runs what I see as a tight ship. She's on the ball. She double checks everything. She doesn't trust the system. She verifies the system. And I walked away from talking with her and asking questions, realizing that what we need in any clerk is someone who's really on the ball. They have to be on top of it. They have to be a good office manager on various things too, but in order for our elections to really be trustworthy, you have to have someone who doesn't trust the system but verifies everything that happens. And I don't know that all or most, I don't know how many clerks really do that, but it's very important to pick a good person for that.
do you think Tina Peters is qualified to be Secretary of State?
No, not at all.
She talks a lot about elections, but that seems to be the one focus. The Secretary of State involves commerce, business, and I don't think that she has that head. She says she ran a business. I don't know to what level exactly. I think it was more of on the level of a realtor or something.
It was her husband's construction company.
Her husband's construction
I
company.
think that even if she was qualified with all those physical qualifications, she has shown such a lack of integrity in how she has conducted herself, from the arrest and the attempt to kick a police officer, and the slanderous comments toward us, toward my husband,
Now toward Lauren.
and toward Lauren Boebert. those are enough right there that disqualify her, in my opinion.
I think what we've told the kids is have faith, things will work out.
That's good.
And we pray with them, we encourage them. They were pretty rattled when this all started. They were really wondering what was going to happen, and if we were going to lose our home, I would lose my job. I didn't know I was going to go to prison. They didn't know what was going to happen.
Right.
And so we've had to have some hard conversations with them and encourage them to hang on, and Wendy encouraged them to trust me, not lose faith. And so that is one aspect of it, I think. It's easy, I think, to just lose trust in people sometimes. I don't have a desire to do that. I want to fight that urge. I've been sidelined for a long time. I felt like I couldn't really get fully involved with the election integrity and checking and just verifying what did happen here. Was it legitimate? Was it not? And I felt like I've just kind of been a spectator on the sidelines most of the time, because my name wouldn't allow me to get involved with things and talk to people in the county and try to investigate the details and answer some of these questions. And so it's been hard in that respect. And I'm hoping that will ease up soon. And I'm looking at just an election data, seeing if the books balance kind of thing with publicly available data. But I don't know what I'm going to find. Whatever the truth is, I'll announce it.